think it is about time to get started. So here we go, everybody. Welcome today. I'm glad you all could join us. Again, my name is Debbie Davidson, and I'm a scientist with the Math Science Nucleus. Now, my background is wildlife biology and forestry. So I really enjoy teaching all about animals and plants. So today we're going to be looking at how these different animals and plants can defend themselves out in the wild. All right, first thing I want you to do is look at this picture. Do you see plants? You probably see lots of big trees. You see some smaller, like knee-high bushes. And then you see some tiny little plants, maybe some of the algae and duckweed along in the water, or the small grasses. Now, all of those plants do need some animals to survive. The animals need the plants. Now, I'm going to click this little video to play, and I want you to use your eyes to look, your ears to listen. See if you can find any animals. Here we go. This is at Tule Ponds at Tyson's Lagoon. It's over off of Walnut Avenue near the BART station. You can see the BART station in the background there. Now, as that video was playing, did you see the really tall trees? And here right in front of this picture, you see some of the smaller shrubs and bushes. And then you see the smaller grasses. But did you hear anything? The one you heard honking? Look over to the right. You can barely see one of our Canadian geese. It was that goose that was doing all that honking. And there were also some other songbirds that were chirping in the background as well. So again, we're looking today at how these plants and animals, how they all live together, they need each other, but also how they can defend themselves. Now, again, all these animals and plants, this is something we call the tree of life. And this is a way that scientists like to organize different animals and plants based on their characteristics, how they eat and how they reproduce. So as you look over here, this blue circle has all the animals. Now up at the top, you see the elephant. Do you see the penguin for the birds? The fish and the reptiles? All of those animalia, that's what we call our vertebrates. Like you are a mammal and you are a vertebrate. You have a backbone. Reach your hand around. Can you feel those bumps along your neck? And now feel it in your lower back. That's your vertebrae. That vertebrae is very important. We're going to find out why. Now, on the green circle, we have all of our different plants. Now, some of the plants that you just saw in that video were the angiosperms, the big tall trees, and some of them were the smaller grasses. So again, we're going to be looking at all of these different types of animals and plants. Now, if we stop for a second and just think about animals, what do animals need to live? Think about what they need to survive. If you look at our picture of the little frog, animals need food, but they consume others. They are consumers. They're either eating other plants or other animals. They need water, space to live, and clean air to breathe. So those are all the things that an animal needs to survive. Now, what about plants? Think of our big tall trees and our small grasses. What do plants need to live? This picture is showing you sun. They need the sun because their leaves make their own food. That's pretty cool, that plants can make their own food through photosynthesis. But they also need air. They need nutrients like water and other minerals. And they also need a space to live. So all of our animals and plants, they're working really hard on finding these 4 things that they need to survive. So it's already a little difficult to survive. So the word defense, can everybody say defense? Defense. Good job. A defense is the action of resisting an attack. It's protecting or guarding. Like if somebody was going to throw a ball at you, you'd put your hands up to block it because you don't want it to hit you in the face, right? That's a defense. So our animals are going to use defenses to resist being attacked. Because remember, some of these other animals are trying to eat other animals. In this picture, this is the case. Look at our lions. Our lions are down in the lower left. They would really like to eat that little baby giraffe. They're hungry. They can't go to McDonald's. They can't go to the grocery store to get their food. They have to catch it in order to be able to survive. So they are eyeballing that giraffe, thinking that would be a good little snack. But what's that mama giraffe doing? She says, no way. She's running at the lions, and she's a very large animal. So that's enough to scare those lions away. So she has done a good job of defending or protecting and guarding her baby. So again, we're going to be talking about defenses. Okay, this is kind of a funny picture. What is this dog defending? We have one dog that doesn't look happy. You see his lips are going up. He's showing his teeth. Can you guys make your lips go up? Can you show me your teeth? Ooh, yeah. If you were a dog, you would be mean and scary. So he's trying to show this other dog that's all goofing around that he doesn't want to play. He's not kidding around. He wants to take a nap, and he's protecting his little yellow toy. So again, that dog is defending something that he thinks is important, and that's his toy. Now here's another activity where they're all defending each other. Let's see what's happening here. We've got some, anybody know what those big animals are? Yeah, they're cows. Now actually those are kind of teenager cows. They're younger cows. They don't have their horns yet. And the little bird is one of those Canadian geese, like we saw honking earlier. Now, the cows are kind of running at this goose, and you see how they put their head down, but they're really not touching the goose much, are they? They are so much bigger than that goose. You would think that goose would be afraid of the cows and would fly away. But there must be something very important that that goose is defending, that goose is guarding. It probably has a nest nearby. So it is protecting the nest of eggs. It is guarding those eggs and keeping the cows away from it. So that's why, even though those cows are so much bigger, that goose is brave enough to defend its nest. All right, now I have two slides here. And the question is, why are these birds attacking the people? Now I put this slide in because you will probably run into these. Anytime you go to Lake Elizabeth, we have a lot of our Canadian geese, and they are very territorial. That means they're very strongly protecting their nests or their food sources. So let's look at picture number 1. Whoa, okay, let's see, when it starts back, see how the guy's just standing there? He probably doesn't think he's being a threat, but that goose, the goose thinks it's a threat. The goose is like, you, what are you doing? You're in my space. Go away, I think you're gonna get my babies. So he flies at him. They do have claws on their feet as well. So he's trying his best to make that guy scared and have the guy move away from his nest. Now look at number 2. See the little girl running away from the goose? Oh no, they're at a pond. Now we don't know the first part of this story. Maybe she was swimming, or she was goofing around on the edge and got too close to a nest. And that goose, in order to defend its nest, it had to pull out its defenses. Its defenses are to spread its wings and look big and honk, make a bunch of noise, and then chase after them. That looks like a big scary goose, doesn't it? I would run away from that goose. But it's important to realize that all of these animals, if they're scared or frightened, they are going to attack. So you need to be respectful, give them their space. All the gentlemen in number 1, all he needed to do was probably back up a little bit, and that goose would not have attacked him. All right, let's see what's next. All right, we have a squirrel, looks like a ground squirrel, and a woodpecker. Now they look like they're kind of bugging each other, but I bet they are both protecting something. The woodpecker, if you look above the woodpecker, you see those little holes in the bark? That's probably where the woodpecker's been digging into the tree to eat the little insects that are inside that tree. Well, meanwhile, see how the tree is hollowed out? I bet the ground squirrel lives down in the bottom of that tree. So he's protecting his home, his nest. So they're both protecting something. Now, eventually, they can probably get along, share the tree, and go about their business. But again, the bird is protecting its food source. The squirrel is protecting its home. Bugging, bugging, bugging. So how can animals defend themselves? That's our topic of the day. Here we've got two turtles. Now, can turtles really break out their lightsabers? And do they fight with lightsabers? No, that'd be fun to watch, but it'd be silly. So they don't use their lightsabers. But if you're a turtle, the way that you can defend yourself is with that big hard shell. You pull your arms and your neck in, your head in, and your tail in. And most animals can't get through that hard outer shell. So that would be their defense. But again, all animals are a little different. So the main way that animals can defend themselves is by using their senses. Can you all say senses? Your senses. That's like your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your taste. They also do physical defenses. And those physical defenses are like your claws and your teeth or big antlers, physical way to keep animals out. And then also trickery. They like to fool us. And this is a lot of fun to watch because sometimes their trickery involves some chemicals. Sometimes it's mimicry, where they look like another one, and also camouflage, where they can hide. All right, so let's look at how our animals can defend themselves. Now, I said, first of all, the first trait of defense is their senses in an animal. Now, remember, you're an animal, you're a mammal, and your senses, you've got your eyes to see. Everybody bat your eyes at me. Put your hands behind your ears to hear. Do I sound different once you have your hands behind your ears? It's a little different. Your nose to smell. Everybody take a sniff. Okay, and what else do you have? Your taste. Your tongue is full of taste buds. And then also your fingers, actually your whole body, for touch. All right, now the reason these senses work is because of everything over here on the right, your nervous system. Now your nervous system, anytime you feel something, let's say you feel something or you see something, it sends a message through your nerves that go to your brain. Everybody put your fingers on your eyebrows, put your thumbs under your ears. Everything behind that space is brain. Now leave one hand on, take the other hand off and feel how big that space is. You have a very large brain and lots of little wrinkles on it, which means it can hold a lot of information. So as an animal, your senses are taking information in, goes to your brain. Your brain is like the computer, and your nerves are taking messages back and forth between all of your senses and the brain. All right, so let's look at just a few of these senses. So sense of touch. Look at number one. Now this is a little teeny kid. They're getting touched all over and they're laughing and giggling. They're getting tickled. Now only tickle a little bit, not much. But all of the nerves around his belly and all are sending messages to his brain. And that's making him then send a message back to laugh. So again, it's not just your fingertips, it's your whole body, all of your outside skin that can send those messages of touch. Now look at number two. This is a little box turtle, and the box turtle, they're using a little brush, but the box turtle can feel through that hard shell. Most of you may not have known that. It's not, it's real sensitive, almost like your fingertips are. So it can wiggle back and forth, so it's getting a good scratch out of that wiggling back and forth. But even though it's a hard shell, it does have a lot of nerves to it, and it's great at sense of touch. All right, let's look at another sense. Ooh, vision, the sense of sight with your eyes. Now, if you look at number one, the black screen is what we would see if we dove way down deep in the ocean. It's so dark, there's no sunlight that reaches down at the bottom of the ocean. So that's what we would see as a black screen. But animals that are used to living down there, their eyes work a little different. They're able to actually see more down there. So this is looking at what you'd be able to see, something like the cuttlefish. The cuttlefish can see each other because they've adapted to living there in the deep ocean. Now look at number 2. Number 2, we're looking at a little mouse in the field. And if you look at the first one with the green grass, that's how we as humans, our eyes see this picture. We see the green grass and we see the little brown field mouse. But if I was a snake, my eyes don't exactly see the same. And I actually see a little bit with my tongue. I see a little bit of heat with my tongue. So this is how the snake would see this. Not green grass anymore, is it? And because the mouse is so warm, it's giving off that deep red color. That's pretty cool. So again, animals see things differently depending on the function of those different senses. Now, here's a quick video on the sense of smell. Most of you have probably seen a dog before. Many of you may have a dog of your own, but I want you to pay attention to the shape of the dog's nose. So this is going to tell us a little bit about how a dog smells.
Like us, dogs can tell if smells are coming from the left or right because their nasal passages are completely divided. But here's how Zinka totally outdoes us. When she sniffs in, most of the air goes into her lungs, but some of it splits off into a separate stream that goes into a special chamber called an olfactory recess. Inside, there's an intricate maze of little passages. Here's a researcher's scan of what it looks like in cross-section. All those twists and turns create a huge surface area, which hold more than 500 million sensory cells that feed information to the brain. That's 15 times more than we have. All of our sensory cells are in this little patch. And we don't have a special chamber for smelling. When Zinka exhales, the air is blasted out the sides through those slits, so she can take in a fresh sample each time.
That's pretty cool, how a dog's nose works. So again, they can smell a lot more than we can, right? So when you walk in after school and you smell something cooking for dinner and it smells really good because you're hungry, think how much your dog would be smelling it. They would be really hungry then. All right, so again, all of our different animals use their senses a little different depending on where they live and all. So the second part of defenses though for animals are their physical defenses. That's like a physical thing that's going to keep you away from them. Like the turtle had the hard shell. Okay, so some of our other defenses are this picture number 1, the cat. So as you look at this picture of this cat, would you be afraid of anything there in that picture that you see? I would be afraid of the teeth. Now remember, your teeth smile at your neighbor. Do your teeth look the same as the cat's? Smile at your neighbor one more time. We have these little canines here, but they're not as big as in the cat. So the cat has those canines because they are a meat eater. They're a carnivore. So again, I would be very afraid of the teeth. And this cat is showing his teeth to you. So he's hoping that by showing his teeth, that might, he's starting to puff up a little bit, that might make you afraid more of him. That would be his defense. Now picture number 2. We have another cat and a squirrel on the window. That's a squirrel. Now the squirrel can't hang on to the glass. He's not hanging on glass. He's not like Spider-Man. He's hanging on a screen that's on the outside. It's got little small hooks that he can hold on to with his claws. So he's upside down. He may or may not even know the cat is there, but he's not worried about the cat getting him because of the glass. But the cat's thinking he would really like to get him. He's trying to catch him. He's doing everything he can, even though he's got those sharp claws. It's not sharp enough to be able to get through the glass. So again, teeth and claws are one defense. And we also have horns. Now look at picture number 1. These are 2 beetles. I picked some little animals just to show you that all the animals have defenses. These are 2 big beetles. The one on this one side has the horns that go off to the side. My big rhinoceros beetle has a small one and then a larger one. Now rhinoceros beetle puts his big horn underneath and just chucks that small little beetle. So again, that's a very strong defense. Now look at picture number 2. We have a little kid here and a little baby goat. The baby goat is just starting to get his little horns, but you see what's happening here. The little kid starts it because he pushes the goat. And when he pushes that goat away, the goat automatically is going to run and headbutt him. Kind of remember the cows, what they were doing earlier? They put their head down and they use those horns then to try to use their defense to get the message through. So I don't think this little boy's enjoying playing with that goat. Now look at number 3. Look at those horns. These are Watusi cattle. They're a breed originally from Africa. They have horns bigger than our arms. And these horns are actually part of their circulatory system. That's how they heat and cool their body. But these big horns, those are so big, I'm not going to go anywhere near them. Would you? Those are really big horns. All right. We also have antlers. Number 2 is antlers. That's a big elk, a Rocky Mountain elk. Now, horns stay on the animal for their whole life. Antlers just stay on for a couple months, they fall off, and then they start growing them again, okay? So this big elk, for some reason, his senses took in information and told his brain that this guy is a threat. And so he's trying to get his defense out so that that guy is not going to be a threat anymore. We don't know enough about this picture. Maybe it's right near the woods and he's defending some of his food, or maybe some more of his herd is right back here. Like in our other goose picture, maybe the guy just got too close to him, thought he'd get a good look at the elk. Well, that made the elk feel like he was afraid, that he was in danger. He thought this guy was a threat. So you see, just like the cows, he puts his head down, just like the goat. He's going to put those down and just make himself look big. And that's a defense. Now look at picture number 1. This is a little deer. It's probably at a rescue, because I certainly wouldn't recommend going up to any wild animals. But this little deer doesn't have the horns, but it does have on its feet we call hooves. And those hooves are very sharp. And that is main defense for a lot of our deer, is they don't really use the big antlers as much as they do their feet. Their hooves are very sharp. So again, that is a physical defense. That deer is physically pushing the kid away, physical defense. Now, another type of animal defense is the chemical defense. Now, the animal makes the chemicals. That's the important part. The animal makes those chemicals. And these chemicals will either repel, they'll keep the animals away. They might hurt the other animal, that'll keep them away. It might confuse or distract the animal, that would keep them away. Anything to prevent the prey from attacking them. Okay, so these chemicals are used to keep other animals from protecting them. So in this picture, we've got a bear sniffing. You guys give a big sniff in your classroom. Can you smell food or anything starting yet? So at first he thinks it might be a good smell, but then what happens to his face? Whoa, I don't think he likes it. So then all of a sudden he realizes it's a bad smell, and that chemical irritates his nose up here, his sense of smell, and he wants to get away. Now look at my picture with the bee. Has anyone here ever been stung by a bee? Oh, or how about bitten by an ant? Oh, yeah. So those are all chemicals. Again, after you get stung by a bee or even a spider, sometimes it leaves a little bump there. And that's, again, from the chemical reacting to your skin. So it bothers you, it keeps you away and distracts you, again, away from getting near the bees, near their hives. The last picture, that little green bug, is a stink bug. Now, stink bugs you see a lot of time inside your house. And if you go grab the stink bug to put him outside, he releases a smelly chemical which makes you have a face like this bear. That's his defense. Anytime he thinks something's going to swoop down and maybe eat him, because that's what he thinks your hand is going to do, he thinks he's going to get eaten, he's going to emit that chemical. Oh, and it's so smelly. And that's going to make you go away and leave the stink bug alone. All right, so let's look at these chemicals. Probably the smelliest animal that most people think of is the skunk. Now we've got a bunch of funny different pictures here. Look at the skunks on the bottom that are all running in the green grass. Look at their tails. Now, if they were just walking along through the forest, their tail would be dragging behind them, wouldn't be all fluffy. The fact that their tail is up, they're trying to make themselves look bigger and look scarier. And their black and white color is also a warning that you should leave them alone. And if those don't work, then look at the little picture where he's gonna poof out some smelly chemical. Oh, and it's so strong. It burns your nose and your eyes, makes your eyes tear. If you guys have ever been around where there's a skunk, even when you're on the road, sometimes they get hit by cars. And even when you ride through them, you can still smell the chemicals that that skunk has emitted. Now look at the top picture. When the skunk sprays, what happens to the leaves on that tree? Because it's smelly. It stinks a lot. But again, that's the animal's defense. Now here's another animal using chemical defense. This beetle is able to spray a chemical all around. Now it looks really bad, and you see how it kind of makes a cloud. So that might confuse the other animal trying to chase it and eat the beetle. So it might just go away. The animal would be able to climb, the beetle would be able to move away quickly in all the cloud of the mess. It sounds bad. It makes a big clicking sound when it does this. And of course, this chemical smells bad. And again, would burn their eyes. And again, if you tried to, it would taste bad too. So I wouldn't go near this beetle. But again, a beetle puts on a good chemical defense. Now here's some more chemical defenses. Number one is a cuttlefish. Ooh, it was chasing another cuttlefish, and that cuttlefish number one wants to get away. Oh, did you see that black ink that came out? Let's watch it again. Oh, black ink. So the cuttlefish has made that black ink so it can push out that cloud, and so you can't see it now. So now it can swim away and get away from whatever's chasing it. Look at number two. That is an octopus. An octopus has 8 legs. You see its 2 eyes, and it got afraid too. It was frightened, afraid something's coming to eat it. And it too squirts out that ink. So it confuses the person or the animal chasing them so they can get away. So again, a chemical defense. Now, there's some other animals that use a chemical defense. These you guys may know about. Anybody see any of the monarch butterflies? Look at picture number 3. That little butterfly that's flapping is a monarch butterfly. We have a lot of those in Fremont. Now, that butterfly, a lot of birds don't like to eat it because it tastes bad. Before it's a butterfly, it's a caterpillar. Look at picture number 2. That caterpillar is just munching away. And the monarch caterpillar, what colors do you see? Black, white, yellow. So our caterpillar is munching away on this plant, on the milkweed. Now, milkweed, if you don't know, is picture number 1. If you pull a leaf or you break a branch of the milkweed, this white sappy latex comes out, and it's super sticky. If you're a little tiny bug, like a little beetle or something, you might even get your little mouthpieces, your mandibles stuck in that latex. And even for people, sometimes it can make us itchy and all as well. But somehow the caterpillar, monarch caterpillar, doesn't seem to mind. So when our caterpillar is able to eat the milkweed, the toxins from the plant stay in the caterpillar. So if a bird tries to eat the caterpillar, it tastes bad. The bird's going to get a bellyache. So that way that nobody really tries to eat those monarch caterpillars. And even when you're an adult butterfly, number 3, you still have those toxins from the milkweed. So it makes you taste bad. So nobody wants to eat you, except for number 4. There are always some exceptions. And this is a little bird that has, maybe he hasn't had many monarchs, because if he does, he'll get a bellyache, but maybe he's gotten used to that bad taste as well. So this monarch did get caught by this bird, and it's going to be lunch. All right. Oh, look at this picture. Here we have all these ants. Look at tiny, even though they're tiny ants. They are defending their house. They don't want this person bothering it, getting near it. So all those ants come out and they start biting. When they bite, they have a chemical, again, that irritates our skin. So that's what makes those little ant bites and all. So make sure whenever you're outside playing and all that you're looking down on the ground, make sure you're not anywhere near a little ant pile, because that's their home. All right, now some of our animals, this is some of the other trickery things, they like to do the mimicry. They like to look like each other or look like somebody else that's dangerous. So remember our monarch, number 1. That's the monarch butterfly. Remember I said he's not going to taste good to most birds. So if you know that the other ones aren't going to eat him, then it might do you good to copy him and look like him, to mimic him. So this is called mimicry. Can everybody say mimicry? Mimicry. So it looks like an animal that is dangerous. So look at all 3 of our pictures here. 2 and 3 look kind of like the monarch, don't they? So they are using mimicry to survive. They figured out nobody wants to eat the monarch. So the one at number 2, that's a viceroy butterfly. He looks very much like the monarch, doesn't he? He has the spots, the orange and black lines and color, the long antenna, very much. So yes, most birds would probably confuse him to be a monarch and not try to eat him. And number 3, that is the queen butterfly. Again, it looks pretty similar, the same color, that outside edge and all. So pretty good mimicry. Mimicry. Now here's another example of mimicry. This is a hoverfly and a sweat bee. Now we know that bees sting, at least most of them sting. There's some that don't, but a bee can sting, but this hoverfly, it can't sting, it's a fly. It just has mouthpieces. But what a tricky mimic fact, because look how it looks so much like the bee. If you saw it, you might think it was the bee. Well, that's the plan, because if you're a bird that wants to eat a bee, maybe you won't eat him. Okay, if you're a fly, the birds would really like flies. It's like, no, I'm going to get eaten if I'm a fly. Let me look like a bee, and then he won't be eaten. So that's an example of mimicry, and we have lots of hoverflies in Fremont. Now, our trickery. These are lots of different tricks that animals can do to fool you. Okay, they try to fool the predators so that they don't get eaten. They might look bigger. They might try to look like another animal that's dangerous. They might look like something that's in their environment. So if you got, look here, picture number 1, you see all of those goats on the run, but see right here, they kind of blend in, don't they? I had no idea there were that many. See, they're all sitting there, so they look kind of like boulders. They look like the rocks, or they look like the grass. Let's watch it one more time. See where they all are? They're all laying around. They get frightened. Their senses take in something from the environment that tells them to run. And that's their big defense. Now, picture number 2. This little bug looks a lot like a leaf or something that we would find on the forest floor. Isn't that funny? So he's made himself look like a leaf so that he can blend in. We've got more trickery. We have these confusing eye spots. Picture number 1. She's standing behind a plant that has this big butterfly on it. Now the big butterfly, you can see its feet are holding on to that plant. Look at those 2 big eye spots at the bottom of the wings. Are those really his eyes? No, those are fake eyes. Those are pretend. His eyes are up by his antennas. So by having these little spots on his wings, if a bird was trying to catch him, he might dive for those eye spots, because they all know that that's where your head and all is. But that's going to trick the bird, and he might just damage a wing instead of being all eaten. Trickery. All right, look at picture number 2. How many eyes do you see in picture number 2? How many eyes? The butterfly's antennas are here. The real eyes of the butterfly are next to those antennas. But how many fake eye spots I see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that what you guys got? Yeah, 6 eye spots. Now, picture number 3 is one of my it's my favorite. I think it's so funny looking. These are little caterpillars. They're caterpillars. Now you see what looks like those big black eyes? That's not their eyes. In fact, that's the tail of the caterpillar. That's the tail of the caterpillar. So again, if a bird was coming to swoop it up, it might just peck off of the back of the caterpillar and he would be able to scoot on off and get to safety. Funny eye spots, such tricks. Okay, here's some more funny eye spots. Look at picture number 1. First of all, what kind of animal is this? Anybody have any ideas? It's an animal that has the 8 legs, has a head and a thorax. That is a spider, an arachnid. Can you guys say arachnid? All right, so our spider here, something has threatened our spider, so it's putting on some of its defenses, and its defenses is to stand up on its tiptoes in the back. So its abdomen is what you're seeing, its belly. So it's shooting up its back of its belly so that it's all colored and putting out his extra legs to make himself look really big. So now he's not just a little spider to eat, he's a big spider to eat. That's a pretty good defense. Now look at picture number 2. What kind of animal is this? Did you say fish? It is a fish. Now, can you find the real eye of the fish and the false eye of the fish? The real eye is on the pointed end of the fish. The fake eye is back by his fins and his tails. And again, so that's if an animal was coming after him, he would go for that back big eye and he would be able to swim and get away. All right, picture number 3. This is a little burrowing owl. We have a lot of these in Fremont as well. These are owls that actually live down in the ground. But what's funny about this owl, you're looking at the back of his head. Look carefully. That's the back of his head. So he has fake eyes on the back of his head. That's to protect him as well. So if another animal like a big hawk would like to try to eat him for dinner even, they would usually go after those they would go for those eyes. So he's again disguising himself so that he would be able to get away. He would be able to fly all the way out. Okay, now let's keep going. Now, camouflage is another type of this trickery, and that's hiding or changing your appearance to blend in with the environment. Can you guys say camouflage? Camouflage. Okay, good. All right, our picture is going to start over here. Let's see, at first, it looks like just a big brown plant of algae, but then did you see how the octopus changed its color? It got real white. That means it got really scared. It was afraid this diver is coming too close to him. But did you see how that octopus was camouflaged so that he looked like a piece of that seaweed? He was able to blend in so well. Again, that's his camouflage. And there he inked us a little bit too. So he's using chemical and trickery. All right, can you find the animal that's camouflaged in this picture? All that green stuff is a little tiny plant called duckweed. Has 2 leaves and 2 roots. Big leaves coming up. Did you find it? Right in the center is a small little frog. Now, his job is to blend in with his environment, to use his environment to camouflage him. So he blends in well, looking like those stems and all of the leaves. Okay, we've got a couple pictures here. Let's look at number 1. We're looking at the base of a tree, big tree bark. And look at how well that owl blends in. Can you guys find the outline now of the owl? You see his bright yellow eyes. Look at how close his coloring is to that tree. That's amazing. All right, look at number 2. Here's another octopus. We saw the octopus before that was pretending that it was to be a plant that was down in the ocean floor. This one was pretending to be the sand. See how it was light colored? But then as somebody got closer, the diver got closer, it got scared and it turned darker color to make himself look big and scary. I'm afraid. All right, look at picture number 3. Number 3 is our leaf bug. Doesn't he look like a leaf? Can you find the bug? The leaf part is looking like his wings. Can you find his 2 long antennae? We can see 3 legs on this side. That is pretty amazing. So again, some of these animals are pretty tricky. All right, look at number 4. Again, a tree bark has that furrowed bark, which means it's kind of bumpy. Can you find the frog? Look at how the frog has adapted its color so that it's light and dark colors of gray and brown so that it blends in well. That's amazing. All right, now we're going to switch to plants. As a quick review for plants, we're going to go over this little storybook called What is a Tree? And it is on the Nucleus website if you want to read it again later, teachers. But here we go. What is a tree?
What is a Tree? By Joyce Bluford, animated by Doris Rayer and Hagos Tavolte. A tree is for birds who want to make a home. A tree is for bats to see the world upside down. A tree is for squirrels who want to find food. A tree is for beavers to make a dam. This makes a pool where beavers can swim. A tree is for people and dogs that want a shady place. A tree is for cats who want to see the world. A tree is for humans to make a house and to help shade the house from the sun. A tree is a plant that has wood tissue to help it stand up straight. Leaves use the light from the sun and water from its roots to make food. Trees can be sorted into broadleaf and needleleaf. A pine tree has needles and a maple has broadleaves. Trees can also be sorted by their shape. A tree only needs soil, water, light, and gases in the atmosphere, and it is happy to help other living organisms. Trees provide oxygen to our atmosphere. When the conditions are not good, trees can sleep until good times return. They become dormant. A tree is a wonderful living organism. It can grow from a seed just like all other plants. An apple tree produces seeds from its fruit. Seeds sometimes need other organisms to find a new place to grow. Birds can carry seeds and drop them anywhere. Some trees, like willows, can grow new trees from stems of old trees. As trees grow, they show their age by the number of rings in their trunks. Trees are important to the earth. They provide other organisms with food, shade, shelter, and oxygen, so we can all live happily together. The end.
Okay, so that was just a quick reminder about plants and how they are important, why animals need them. So look first at this bark. Bark is the outside of the tree, and that's what protects the tree. That's its tree's first defense. So the bugs have to get through that really strong bark. And once they get into the bark, they are looking for the xylem and phloem. You see the rings on that tree? Together, the xylem and phloem, that's how the water and the nutrients go back and forth. That forms the rings of the trees. So you can count the rings on a tree, find out how old the tree is. So that's kind of fun. All right, so this is a tree that was cut down. It was having some difficulties. You see from how easy it was for Art to pull off that bark. Now let's watch Art again. Using a chainsaw. He was using a chainsaw to cut through that wood. So that bark in the wood was very hard. It took him a long time to get through, even with that machine working. Now, once we cut down through though, we did see the reason probably why this tree was starting to die while it fell over. You see those little marks in the tree. Some bugs had managed to make it through the bark and get to the interior of the tree, the inside of the tree where all that xylem and phloem is. So look at picture up in the top corner. We've got some bark beetles that are down in that tree chewing on that wood. And boy, they're really making a mess, aren't they? So they're getting into, once enough bugs get to the inside of a tree, then it will damage and cause the tree to die. So again, bark is one line of defense, but it doesn't always work. The bottom picture again is showing a beetle next to some of the damage that it would have done on that tree. Now, thorns are another way that a tree or a plant can use to defend itself. Thorns are just modified branches. And if you look at picture number 1, see the red part of the branch? The red part of the branch has really big thorns, and that's to keep the really big animals away, like deer. If you look at picture number 2, there's a smaller little thorns, and that's to keep the smaller animals away. Now, these blackberries, though, are just so yummy. This little field mouse has decided that it's worth getting poked a time or two by these thorns to be able to eat this fruit. But now it doesn't always work to keep the animals away, but these thorns do keep a lot of them away. So again, thorns are one way. Now this is a cactus. Cactus spines are modified leaves. Funny. So picture number 1, we have a cactus growing, and you see its little spines, the little cacti spines that are all over it. So that's going to keep us from even going and grabbing the cactus, right? Because that would hurt. We would end up with all those little pokey spines on us and the blooming flower. But sometimes animals are drawn to it anyway. That might be a source of water, or other animals might be hiding in the cactus. Look at picture number 2. Oh no, this is a little coyote puppy. And people had to help and save him because he had probably gone chasing a mouse or something into the middle of a cactus. And look, the cactus spines got poked all over him and he can't get them off, and it hurts. So this poor little guy had to get help because those spines were sticking in him. Now picture number 3, if the spines aren't big enough for the animal, they're not going to keep that animal away. So this little house plant that somebody has growing, the cat is using it to scratch its cheeks and all. And you see it even gives it a little lick. So those little cactus spines were probably designed to keep smaller bugs and birds away, not big cats. All right, now we're talking about our leaves. Here we've got, oops, go back. Here we've got a picture of some deer that are browsing. Did you know that they don't just eat grass, but they also browse and eat twigs and leaves? So that's what this deer is doing. It's reaching up, eating all those leaves. But the picture on the right is showing you what the leaves look like. Now, if a plant feels the animal's coming around to eat it, it starts making all these pokey leaves. It makes the leaves that have all the spokes and spines. So when a deer tries to eat it, ow, ow, it's going to hurt their mouth, right? But if you look at the same tree up high where the deer can't reach it, it's going to have these really big leaves to collect all the sunlight. It doesn't have to have those protective spines anymore because nobody can reach that high. So again, our trees are pretty cool the way that they can do that. Now, they don't have a brain and think the same way that we do, but they still have some ways to do that. So again, all it takes is one little herbivore and they start making these spiky leaves. All right, now if we look at this, see this big circle in the middle? What is that? That's called a gall. And you'll see a lot of those around the big oak trees up in Fremont. If you walk along some of the nature trails and all, they grow on both branches and leaves, and they're caused by an insect. This little fly midge is the one that lays them all. There's one picture down in the middle. That one is from a willow tree. So we have all those around Tule ponds as well. But again, they're flies. And a plant, remember, a plant can't move away like the animals can. The plant is stuck. So if the fly comes, lays its egg on the tree, then it's kind of bugging it. So the tree just puts down more plant material around it. And that's what makes these galls. It doesn't hurt the tree. Eventually, the little larva is going to crawl out and it'll be off on its own. But it's just a way of the tree protecting itself. All right, now our plants also use chemicals. If you look at this picture, our roots at the bottom, we got our stems and our leaves, right? Roots at the bottom, stems and leaves. Both of the stems and leaves and the roots can give off chemicals to keep animals away from eating them. Now, our repellents, you may not think about this much. The first picture is there, somebody eating a piece of garlic. Ooh, which garlic on pizza or spaghetti is really good, but by itself, it's super strong and it gives you bad breath. It's super smelly, but it's strong enough to keep some animals away, even like an onion keeps it away. In fact, some of these smells are strong enough. What happens to my plant in the middle? Their smells are strong enough, those chemicals are strong enough to make the plant die. Oh, and that plant is wilting. Now, some of our chemicals, we have gotten used to those smells, and some of the chemicals, we actually like the smells. Look at that picture of the little dog sniffing up. So when you get home, another thing you can try is to look at your mom and dad's seasonings. So this is seasoning of garlic. That'll give you an idea of what it smells like. And even our sage, a lot of our Italian seasonings, those are all leaves and all as well, that we've gotten used to. But again, they might be poisonous to other plants or repel others away. Poisons are another way that plants can protect themselves. Leaves of 3. See the 3 leaves together? Count the leaves with me. 1, 2, 3. In the back, count those 3. 1, 2, 3. Look at the edges of the leaf. This is what poison oak looks like. And poison oak has an oil on it, and the oil is very irritating and it's poisonous to a lot of other animals. For people, some people are more allergic to it than others, are more sensitive, and you might get little bumps. That's what this poison oak is on the left here. So again, it's just being aware of what's out there. Don't go around touching stuff unless you know what it is. All right, so we are going to look now at our activity, at our worksheet. Many of you, where you registered, that's where you can find the worksheet. And on our worksheet, we have a picture, 2 frogs, 2 grasshoppers, 2 snakes. And I've got some other pictures over there. All we're going to do first is just color those. Now, one thing you can do with this is color one set, color a snake and a grasshopper and a frog, color them to hide inside your classroom. So you can look around your classroom at different colors that are used. And then you can make another set for going outside. All right, so the hoop picture, look at the one with the hula hoop in the middle. Now, if you've got a big open field, you might lose some of your little animals. So if you have a jump rope or something like a hula hoop, what you're going to do is work with a friend. So your friend's going to turn their back to you, cover their eyes so they can't see you. You're going to find your little area and you're going to hide however many animals that you want to. Go back to your friend and tell them it's their turn. You can't find the animals if you hide them yourself, right? You have to find somebody else's animals. Well, it's not too easy. If you look in this picture, I've got all 6 of my animals are hiding inside that yellow hula hoop. The easiest one that jumps out at me is the red snake. Okay, but again, if you've got an area, you can either define it like the edge of a driveway, edge of a fence, use a jump rope if you want to spread out, but some way to kind of mark the area that you're going to play. And then after, another thing you can do with them is take all of those pieces that you've colored and using just a small little bag. I just took a bag I cleaned off my porch and it had sticks in it, it had leaves. And then I just make a plate with my animals and hide them that way.